So hello, my name's Rob, this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and today I'm teaming up with the really talented Necromunda again to make a Kitbashed character for our scatter terrain pieces that we've been working on. This is the third video. I've got the privilege of working with Necromunda. Toby, he's such a creative guy, really pushes me to kind of want to do better because I know whatever he does is going to be really good. If you haven't seen those videos, I will leave links to them in the description below. I always forget to say stuff like this, but it's all about kitbashing and it's something that I haven't really tackled. I've got a lot of leftover bits. I got some interesting sections together, and then I found this absolute beauty of a ogre glutton from Age of Sigmar body, which really inspired me to kind of pull my finger out and get this done. These characters are to go with our, as I say, our little scatter pieces we've been making, and I made this kind of big dirty corpse grinder thing. I'll also pop a link in the video to the the thing in the corner, the box in the corner that the thing comes up, technical terms. But the idea of this kind of guy is to kind of have something quite big and brutish. But the other thing is I've not got much skill when it comes to this type of thing, so it should be a lot of fun. So what I did was I went through and I looked at bits that I thought were maybe like interesting, like shoulder pads and cables and things, and I started to come up with a bit of an idea of what I wanted. If I was a more organised man, I probably would have sketched something out. However, that's not how we do things here. So yeah, I'm going to talk you through my process, how I got to where I ended up, and some of the thought process behind it. So to start with, I had my ogre body. The first thing I did was clean up as much as I could. There was some old adhesive. I think I got one of these off one of my friends. He gave me a job lot because everyone knows how much I love ogres. And I think the reason why I didn't use this guy is he had forgotten to put the shoe plates on, and he had tiny feet. So I never used him, and he sat in a drawer for ages and I'd completely forgot about him. But the idea is to kind of have all like cables and things coming out of his belly, and just to use like the design process of how the model goes together to my advantage, because quite frankly I can't do it through skill. But what I did was, starting with the head, I just trimmed everything really carefully, slowly, methodically, working on the premise of you can take away but you can't add back on to an extent, and there was no way I was going to start using green stuff and stuff like that, because that's a whole another kettle of fish of something I'm not good at. So all I did was just shave the kind of neck section down just how I needed it to be, because I wanted to attach this Necromunda slave Ogren head which I had left over. Once I was happy with how everything was done, to smooth it out I just used a selection of needle files just to kind of blend the I guess the cuts out, and then I was able to glue the head into place. I'm actually using, and I forgot to show it here, it's just normal Tamiya cement for the adhesive. However, a really cool trick, and something I have done before, which is great for getting rid of seam lines. If you have got some extra thin cement, what you can actually do is you can cut up some sprue, drop it into the adhesive, and it will almost make like a liquid plastic, which is great for filling. Once it's fully dry, you can sand it, and it's almost just like sanding sprue down, so you can kind of get away with building and filling some gaps, if you will. But the first step is his kind of arm. Now, I had the drill launcher thing from a Caradon Overlords kit, so I thought it'd be cool to kind of give him like a big drill arm. I'm imagining this guy as a bit of a big brute, so I wanted him to have lots of, I guess, tools for cutting up bodies. So using a razor saw, what I decided to do was just nip off the excess parts of the weapon so it sat a lot flatter. This just made cutting a lot easier, and it was the little bits like this that I really had to think about for how to It might seem obvious to some, but to someone that doesn't do this often, it was kind of like, oh, I need to remove this. But all I did was using his wristbands as a guide. I just cut through as cleanly as I could, and then using my files, I just smoothed everything over. I also put a slight angle in the wrist because I wanted the drill to kind of sit, I guess, straight with his arm. And then that was it. A more skilled person would have drilled and pinned this, but I think there's something quite beautiful in where I ended up here. A big mess of extra thin cement and bits. But as you can see, I dry fit everything. I made a point of dry fitting absolutely everything so many times. The drill kind of sat facing outwards a little bit more, and I didn't like that, so I did take it off and I reattached it so it sat more kind of naturally towards him, and that's where I ended up. I'm not going to attach the arms just yet. They're actually going to be the last thing that goes on because I need to allow myself space to work. Next was this really cool Ambot Shoulder Pad. This is one of their arm shoulder joints, and I kind of wanted it to look like it was just sitting actually in him, and it was part of him, and it's, you know, it had like an arm removed. So using this rather imposing file, I just filed it away as flat as I could. Just taking my time. I kept checking, stopping, checking. I can't stress enough how much I needed to carry on checking. And then once again, a load of Tamiya cement and some of the glue with the sprue in, and you're starting to get the idea. I found this cool tube and stuff that looked like it could be attached. So I'm starting to now build a picture in my head on the fly of where I wanted to go with this. So I then found I think this is a breacher or destroyer set from the Adeptus Mechanicus, and they had some great claws and things like that from an old project I did, and I was able to use one of their kind of like hydraulic claw arms, which worked really well in the end to kind of give that ramshackle, not quite fitting but it works Necromunda look that I think I try and really encapsulate. Next up was legs. Now this is where my patience was fully tested, and I do wish I had planned these bits a little bit more than I actually did. However, I knew in my head what I wanted to do. Originally I kind of wanted him to be on like a winch system, but be like, I don't know, like a bit of an amputee. So I wanted his body to sit in like this bowl that was carrying by the legs, almost like a set of scales, like he'd been dumped in it. So what I did was I went all mad scientist and just literally cut the whole waist off. And then, much like Shakira, his hips very much lied to me. And I just had to spend a lot of time shaping him into almost like a stump. And I think it was at this point that I really appreciated the work that goes into so many kit bashes. The thought process and the planning to get some of these, you know, exceptional pieces that we see online really does absolutely baffles me. This was a process, and I was getting really frustrated because I kept filing the top of this plate down and I couldn't get it to sit quite right, and I stopped so many times and had to walk away from my desk. This is where I do wish I had maybe done things in a different order, but you know, we live and learn. But once he had been shaped and he had been glued in, I found this turret thing which I glued to his back for some added support, and then I was able to kind of get the angle that I wanted him to be in. I didn't want him to be lurched forward. I wanted to be quite up straight, and you know, I want him to be a big guy and quite imposing. So using a lot of Tamiya cement, it did save the day. And once the legs were on, I was quite happy. I was a lot happier, should we say, because I'm starting to see that vision kind of take place. The next step was cables. Like some weird hoarding little beaver, I then went on a massive rampage through all my old sprues to find cables to run around and hide any seam lines, as I thought that was quite a good idea. I wanted it to look like his innards were being connected to his outside, and he had all these little control boxes on and things like that, and just tubes generally doing something, but God knows what. I was also quite conscious at this point of not having anything put on the miniature that would obstruct the arms or anything like that. And yeah, this is where it all started to kind of come into place, and I think I had the most fun with it. I found lots of little wire sections and stuff like that. I glued it all the way around. I did just spend a few kind of, I guess, hours staring at it, making sure I was happy, rejigging things. But then it was just a case of attaching the arms and giving him a paint job. And this is what we ended up with. And there we are. I'm really happy with how he turned out. I knew I had to have my game for this because I know Toby's going to do something exceptional. I will put any information regarding how I painted this guy in the description below. If you've got any questions, fire them below. Any tips, very much appreciated. And just thanks again for watching. God bless, take care, and I'll see you all next time.